Welcome to HTML5 programming webinar series from jpassion.com, and we are going to actually talk about a lot of topics, and today's topic is HTML5 overview. So the goal of today's presentation, I don't even have a lab today. It's just the kind of giving you a sense of what HTML5 is all about, and then from next week, we're going to actually get into programming. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the presentation. So today we're going to use a presentation, and then I'm going to actually go to a website here and there and give you some demos here and there. Okay. All right, so we're going to cover what is and why you want to use HTML5. Some of you already asked these questions before we start the presentation. I'm going to give you HTML5 showcases, and we'll talk about HTML5 features briefly. We're going to actually spend the rest of the course learning these features in detail, mostly from developer standpoint. So you're going to do a lot of programming. And then we'll see HTML5 support in browsers. Again, these are the questions that were asked before the presentation. So we're going to actually go to some website that give you exactly what version of a browser, what version of what browser is actually supporting what features. Okay. And building mobile application with HTML5, and then we'll see how application architecture is actually changing because of the emergence of HTML5. Okay, so I think some of you already asked these questions, so we'll actually spend some time on it, and then we'll see how you can get started on usage of HTML5 in your development environment. All right, so let's see what HTML5 is all about. So HTML5 is considered is a collection of features, technologies, and API. So it's in fact the umbrella term that people use. So the idea of HTML5 is to let you build a desktop-like application on the browser. Okay, so basically power of desktop and vibrancy of multimedia experience to the web. Okay, while amplifying the web's core strengths and interactivity and connectivity. So before HTML5, web application certainly has an advantage of actually, distributing application is a lot easier than distributing desktop applications. However, it doesn't let you actually build very powerful, rich applications. Now so you have to use some kind of plugin such as a Flash. Not anymore. HTML5 is now providing, in a sense, complete feature set that lets you build this kind of a desktop-like applications on the web. In terms of concrete set of technologies, HTML5 is considered as three things, as a summation of three technologies: new version of HTML, and CSS3, and JavaScript library. Okay, and we'll see examples of this one in the rest of the course. So how did HTML5 effort get started? Yeah, this is a little bit of historical background, nothing really important to understand. Okay, so HTML5 at this point is a cooperation between W3C and Web Hypertext Application Technology Working Group called the WG. Okay. So what WG was working on web forms and applications, and W3C was working on XHTML 2.0 before they start their collaboration. But in 2006, they decided to cooperate and collaborate to come up with HTML5. All right, so this is a timeline of web technologies. So, 2009, HTML5 effort has started in earnest. So design goals of HTML5 is to provide new features based on existing technologies on HTML, CSS, and DOM, and JavaScript. So it's not trying to introduce brand new technologies, but enhancing existing technologies. And eliminate and reduce the need of extra plugins. So this is in fact the big idea of HTML5. So so last H should be removed. So like a plugin of a Flash plugin or Silverlight, you don't need those plugins because plugins provide a lot of, they provide the features at the same time they actually cause issues. Okay, so and better error handling and built-in markup replacing scripting. So semantics, it provides the rich set of semantics, and device independent. The trend is that people use different type of devices and to access the web. So HTML5 want to be device independent, and also mobility, meaning mobile device is actually becoming the much more popular computing platform, so mobile friendly. So as I said, HTML5 is a set of many technologies. Okay, so you can see the technologies being addressed by the what working group, and W3C is addressing some of the technologies, and then there are in fact the technologies that being addressed by other organizations. So you can think of HTML5 as just the set of technologies, and who's actually working on what is not really important. Okay, moving forward. So why HTML5? So, these are the reasons why browser is becoming the computing platform of choice. So, instead of using desktop applications, people want to use a browser-based applications, and these are already happening during the past, the 6 or 7 or 10 years. So, Google Apps and Gmail and games, these are the examples that are running on the browser, and rather than as desktop applications. And browser apps over native mobile apps. We'll talk about this one later on. There are two different ways that you can build the mobile applications, and now browser-based application that provides a cross-platform functionality is becoming more popular than native mobile applications. Chrome is now king of the browser. Chrome is leading the effort of HTML5. So if you actually go to this website, you can see Chrome is actually becoming the most popular the browser. So let's see what it does. So this is actually from 2009 to January 2013. You can certainly add it. This is what I have added. Um, Looks like it's taking its time, so let me just move on and we'll just get back this one. Okay, believe me, I can see, this is a statistic. Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah. So here you can see the Chrome is increasing here. Okay, while other browser market share is actually going down. Okay, all right. And browser-only platforms is actually emerging. So, for example, Chrome OS and Firefox OS. And the reason is that the way that we are using our desktop platforms is actually going through a lot of overhead that are not required for accessing the web. Okay, for example, you have a BIOS and you have operating system. All those things are not really needed. So these browser-only platforms are really optimized for accessing the web. Okay, so they provide a fast and secure and reliable and cloud-enabled environment. Chromebook is a device, is a computing device that assumed the only thing that you need, in fact, is a browser, and every application is running inside the browser. Okay, so this is going to be becoming much more popular moving forward. All right, so why HTML5 from the feature standpoint, offline and storage. So retain their state and holds data without server. Okay, so you can actually run your browser application without being connected to the web. Okay, and because it actually saves the state and data on browser, it's improving application's performance as a side effect and better user experience. So HTML5 enables your browser-based applications to be more responsive, and it will provide a better user experience. And the user experience is going to be rivals to the user experience of desktop applications. Easier development. So HTML5 simplifies your development lifecycle by letting you use the same technology stack across multiple platforms and devices. So this is actually a very important aspect for building mobile applications. If you're building native mobile applications, then you have to build Android version and iOS version and BlackBerry version, Windows 8 version. Instead, you can just use HTML5. Then you can use one single code base to support all those different mobile platforms. And of course, you are going to support, any browser environment, including those mobile environment. So HTML5 technologies include JavaScript and CSS and HTML. These are the technologies that have been around for many, many years. So they are actually relatively easy to pick up for typical developer. Broad reach. So HTML5 is becoming a standard, and it's supported by all modern desktop browsers and mobile devices. Okay, so it's a given thing. And because you don't have to use a plugins, it reduces the security risk. One of the problems of those plugins is that they actually introduced the security risk the point. Now, not requiring those plugins, the security issues have been greatly minimized. And lower cost and easier maintenance, again, by having a single the stack for different type of devices. You don't have to actually build the platform specific applications. So HTML5 adoption. So everyone is on HTML5 bandwagon. Okay, so Steve Jobs says the world is moving HTML5. Even Microsoft, the world is pushing down HTML5 path, and so are we. So they are, in fact, diminishing the importance of Silverlight and moving forward the HTML5 path in full speed. And of course, Google is everything in Google is through HTML5. So no more plugins are required. So this is the Steve Jobs win. So there was actually kind of the news when Steve refused to support Flash on iPhone and iPad, and there is a reason for that because he sees HTML5 is the standard that is actually being used by everyone that provides similar or better functionality. So if you actually in fact go to this website, that is where I captured the screen. Okay, so feel free to read this. And same thing with the Silverlight. All right, HTML5 is #1 in job trend. So if you go to Indeed.com job trend, you will see, in fact, the HTML5 is #1 job trend. Okay, LinkedIn recently has done some survey among developers, which language most developers use, and I think they got about 55 response, and the HTML5 and JavaScript it was the top. Is actually used more than Java and more than C# and all the other languages. Is the most popular technology being used by developers. And HTML5 showcases, I actually picked up few HTML5 applications. So if you go to the Apple Showcase website, okay, so these are the sample applications that you can use. So let me just go to gallery here. So these are the things that you were able to do only with a Flash plugin. Now you could do the horizontal with just HTML5, vertical, grid, okay, and let's see about the 360. So you can move things around, okay, and transitions. Yeah, so dissolve. This is 3D transitions, side in, toss, and fade through. This is a 3D, and rotate in, and horizontal flip, and multi-flip, unfold. And this is the 3D again, and you can just have this virtual view. And of course, audio and video is this is just audio, and typograph video. All right, so that is from Apple. Let's see. This is from, yeah, so everything Google does HTML5. Okay, so in fact, Google is the one that leads HTML5 environment. Okay, so yeah, so Google Drive, everything is yeah. So one of the applications from Google is Angry Birds. So if you go to Angry Birds, In fact, this is actually using local storage. So, once you actually download this application, in my case, that's the case, I can just kind of get disconnected. I can still run Angry Bird because everything is the runnable offline. Okay. All right. So this is from Angry Bird. I'll click Google on Angry Bird. And HTML5 Studio from HTML5 Rocks. So, these are the sample applications that are written using HTML5. So let me just go to the WebGL, which is the 3D things. And I can just move things around. And it's basically a news, from the world. And this is from so this is basically again seeing the human body from 3D perspective. Okay, so you can select the man or the female, female or male. Let me just choose. Okay, and I can select. Oops, yeah. So yeah, looks like it's actually something. Let me just start from scratch because I think some of things actually kind of overlapped. Okay, so I can see the muscles and I can move things around. Okay. All right. Brain. Okay. So these are the applications that are mostly focused on UI side of it, and there are of course applications that are for enterprise. So this is example from Johor, and they build project management and CRM applications, taking advantage of the HTML5. Okay, so they have let's see, sign in. Let me just sign in. So contract accounts activities. So you can actually go to add user, create contract. Yeah, so everything is actually based on, so basically this kind of architecture, we're going to talk about later on is you're using backend and then you're using front end that is based on HTML5 and they access the data using RESTful access. Okay, so these kind of enterprise applications are increasingly built taking advantage of the front end based on HTML5 and then backend is basically just providing the data through the RESTful call. All right, so let's move on to HTML5 features. So there are actually, the 8 or 9 major features. So this is the semantics. It's basically providing new media elements. So this is basically HTML5 markups. New structural elements such as the articles and header and footers, new semantics for internationalization and link relation types, attributes, form types, microdata. Okay, so we're going to talk about these things in detail next week. Presentation. So again, you are going to do a lot of styling using CSS3. So you can do 2D and 3D transformation and transitions, and also web forms, web fonts, sorry, and graphics. Okay, so it introduces Canvas and SVG, and WebGL is increasingly becoming popular. And connectivity. WebSocket provides a full duplex bidirectional communication channel and is actually basically replacing Comet as a better technology and better and more native technology on the browser. Cross-domain messaging and server-side events and new version of HTML HTTP request 2. Audio and video and performance. So it introduces what is called a web worker so that you can actually perform some time-consuming operations in the background. And so web applications now rival the performance of native and desktop applications. Storage is, as I mentioned, application cache and local storage, and WebSQL is actually being replaced by IndexedDB, even though some browsers are still supporting WebSQL and IndexedDB, both of them. Okay, and file access. All right, so we're going to actually go over those features in very much detail in the rest of the course. So I kind of give you a sense of what features are included in HTML5. All right, now let's move on to HTML5 support in browsers. So if you go to caniuse.com, so this is the D website that you want to go to find out